Hey there everybody, Connor here. Welcome back to my channel. I'm the Scottish nerd that brings you Pokemon trading card game content twice a week, as well as movie reviews and gaming related content. If any of that interests you, or you enjoyed the video at any point today, then be sure to subscribe down below. And as always, I'll be having a playlist with all of the related content in it for Theme Deck Tuesday, as well as my other content which I have. So be sure to check those out, and as I say, subscribe if you enjoy the content at any point and want to see some in the future. So today I'm going to be having a look at the Blastoise deck in the Theme Deck format. We'll just have a brief look through some of the Pokemon and trainers as always, and I'll talk you through some of the strengths and weaknesses of the deck. So we'll just start at the beginning of the Pokemon. We have this Farfetch'd here, and its main use is its collect attack, allowing us to draw 2 cards, and it also has 80 HP, which is really great in the Theme Deck format. Although its attack isn't all that powerful, it can only do 20, or if the defending Pokemon has a tool, it does some more damage, but we're mainly focused on that collect, being able to draw us 2 cards in the first 2 or 3 turns of the game. This is going to be really crucial for setting up your hand and getting the cards that you need in it in order to evolve your Pokemon. So moving on, we have a Pidgey and Pidgeot line coming up. So this Pidgey also has collect, which allows you to draw 1 card rather than 2. This can be useful in a pinch, but really you want to have these sitting on your bench and ready to go for these Pidgeotto. So Pidgeotto here has a ability called Airmail, and allows you to look at the top 2 cards of your deck, and you get to draw 1 and the other one goes on the bottom of your deck. This is great for cycling through your deck, drawing cards, and this is why we want it on our bench. So we have 2 of these in the deck, and that's going to allow us to draw 2 additional cards every single turn, as well as playing our supporter for turn. We also have the Pidgeot in the deck. This can be useful as an attacker. It does 60 damage for 2 energy, and your opponent is forced to switch Pokemon, so it can force them to move a big attacker that they're using, or additionally if they do have something set up, you can go in with the Spin Storm, and that's going to force them to put the defending Pokemon into their hands. We don't typically evolve into this all that often to attack with, as we have other good attackers, and we typically want to keep our Pokemon here in the Pidgeotto line so that we can use Airmail every single turn. But another nice thing about the Pidgeot is it has free retreat if we ever need a free retreat Pokemon. Moving on, we have a couple of copies of this Psyduck. Its attack isn't all that impressive, headache for 10 damage, but your opponent can't use trainer cards on a coin flip. Can be useful, but mainly we're going to want to use it for this Golduck here, as we have 2 copies in the deck. Amnesia only doing 20 is not great for damage, but it stops our opponent from using one of their attacks, whichever one we choose. So if they're using one main attack, or maybe the defending Pokemon only has 1 attack, we can stop them from attacking. And then moving into our main attack, which is Swim for 90. This is great pressure, just all round 90 damage, is pretty strong on a stage 1 in the Theme Deck format. And it also has this extra text which says if we're against an opponent that's using a water Pokemon, it doesn't even need to be in the active, or it doesn't even need to be a Pokemon, sorry. It can be energy, water, energy attached to their Pokemon. Then we're able to do 90 damage instead to one of their bench Pokemon. So there's a bunch of theme decks which have 2 types of energy in them, and if we're against one of those, or if we're against some sort of water based deck, we can actually snipe their bench, which can be quite useful for picking off Pokemon that they're trying to evolve, or just lower HP Pokemon. So I really like this as an attacker. We also have our Blastoise line here. So we have the Squirtle, nothing too crazy, does have 70 HP, that's the main thing to note, I would say. And then of course the War Turtle, again it's, attacks are pretty standard, 2 and 3 energy attacks for minimal damage, but the star of the show and deck is this Blastoise. We get 2 of these, and it has the powerful Squall ability, which allows us to look at the top 6 cards of our deck, and if we find any water energy there, then we're able to attach them to our Pokemon in any way that we like. So this is great energy acceleration, as well as also just thinning the deck so that we can get towards the cards that are more beneficial for us. And it also doubles as a main attacker for us, and its Hydro Tackle attack for 150 damage is going to allow us to knock out the majority of Pokemon in the theme deck format. We do take 30 damage to ourselves, but with 160 HP we can hopefully get this off twice before we're knocked out, especially with our other attackers such as Golduck. It's going to be really good to get this Blastoise up as quickly as possible to start using Powerful Squall. So getting into our trainer cards, this deck is really good for its trainer cards, and that's one of the reasons why I particularly love this deck. Is it has draw power in its abilities in Airmail, it also has the energy acceleration with Blastoise, and it's backed up with some really powerful trainer cards. So we have 2 copies of Nest Ball and Timer Ball. Nest Ball allowing us to search our deck for a basic Pokemon and put it directly onto our bench. Along with Timer Ball, we flip 2 coins, and for each we get an evolution. So that's setting up both our basic Pokemon and our evolutions, and hopefully we can get some good heads on Timer Ball as well. We also have a couple of copies of Switch, which can be useful to switch between our Pokemon if something gets stuck. Never know where that might come in handy. And then along with our supporters, we have a good lineup here. We have 2 copies of Brock's Grit, allows us to shuffle in Pokemon and energy from the discard. Then Copycat, copies our opponent's hand size, great for drawing up if they have a larger hand size. Typically you do get a large hand size in the theme deck format if you have good draw, which we do. We also have a couple copies of Cynthia, Shuffle Draw, always strong card, along with a couple copies of How, drawing 3 cards, pretty standard in the majority of theme decks that you're going to see. We have Pokemon Fan Club, again allowing us to search out our basic Pokemon. This is great in the early turns and in the late game as well. If you've got your board set up, you can still use this to thin your deck a little bit and get towards cards that you need, especially for Powerful Squall, getting those energy in play. And to finish it off, we have a couple of Professor Kukui, which draws us 2 cards, but it also allows us to do an extra 20 damage when we attack that turn. So that can be really useful in combination with something like our Golduck here. So we could be going from 90 to 110 damage, which does actually make a difference on a bunch of Pokemon. For example, Golduck itself has 110 HP, so little difference makers that Professor Kukui can come in clutch with. And then to round it off, of course, we have our 20 water energy. So hopefully we can get some wins with this deck. It's a very fun deck and I do love playing it because it has so many good and consistent draw cards in it, both in terms of Pokemon and trainer cards. So alrighty, let's get into our first match here. It looks like we're against a very old theme deck in the Glide Psychic deck, but it's a particularly powerful one as it does more damage for more energy that you put in play, I believe. Anyway, it's been a while since I've played that deck, but certainly a fun one. Been an interesting match, and you'll see why some of the older theme decks are not as good as the new ones, since the draw cards that they have are nowhere near the standards that we have nowadays. The theme deck format's really come a long way. Starting off, we do have to go first, unfortunately. Would have loved to go second and been able to collect here, but we do at least get our Squirtle off of the Nest Ball, and we'll attach water energy to it and we can pass. So it looks like my opponent's also going to be just slowly setting up their evolutions to get heads on our roller skates, which is good for them. That's going to allow them to draw 3 cards from an item card, and they also still have their supporter card to play. There's that Ralts on the bench as well that I was referring to. They're going to want to evolve that later on. We see a Professor's Letter, thinning the deck, getting more energy. We also have our Pidgeotto for Airmail, which is good. As well, the Timer Ball top deck, so we can use that to try and get a War Turtle here. Fortunately we get double tails, so we'll settle for attaching energy and using Cynthia. This is going to refresh our hand, see more cards. We draw into the War Turtle and Blastoise, which is very good. So we can airmail, go with the Pokemon Fan Club. We have the energy already, so Fan Club's far more valuable here. And we shall collect and draw 2 cards. So again, 2 great cards to draw, energy plus Nest Ball. We're going to be able to fill our bench with basic Pokemon on our following turn, as well as getting that Blastoise into play. So it looks like our opponent also has a bunch of evolutions set up, and they're able to hit heads and they paralyze us with their attack. So that's a little unfortunate, and it means that we would have to find a switch if we want to get an attack in here. But we're going to stick with our game plan and continue to set up our Pokemon. Going to get a second Squirtle, and then use this Pokemon Fan Club to get a Psyduck as well as a Pidgey. Then of course we're going to attach energy and airmail before we use Powerful Squall. There was 2 energy there unfortunately, but hopefully we try and thin it out, and we only get 1, but it's better than nothing. And we can attach that to the Psyduck, start getting our Golduck ready. And as you see, the energy acceleration, even if you just hit 1 energy with Powerful Squall, that 1 energy can be great for getting you towards your next attacker and getting prepared for when your opponent does knock you out, or if you get a switch, something like that, then you have the options to attack and you have an array of attackers at your disposal. So before using Airmail or Powerful Squall, I'm going to use Cynthia, so let's just decide. Probably going to be most useful putting this energy onto the Golduck, so we shall Cynthia. Looking for more War Turtle or Pidgeotto, but we don't find those. We do find Switch however, so we could get an attack off. First of all, Airmail for double water once again. And Powerful Squall, very good, we hit 2 energy. So we'll put on our water Pokemon, we'll split them up, Blastoise and the Golduck. And then let's go and switch into the Golduck and we can start hitting into this Delcatty and get the knockout with our 90 damage. So we're going to take the first prize card of the match here and take the lead. See what my opponent can bring out of the bag. They do get another Pokemon, so if we get the knockout here, then at least they're not immediately losing the game. But unfortunately they're only going to be able to hit us for 40 damage. So we can use our supporter card How for the turn, as well as this Timer Ball since we drew into it. We are graced with a double heads to pay back the double tails we got earlier. Unfortunately our other Pidgeotto is in the prize cards, so we'll just take the War Turtle and Blastoise to work towards setting those up. And of course we're going to Airmail before we do anything else. We get a switch which can be useful, so I'll take that. We have plenty of supporters in the hand to work with. And we get another 2 energy Powerful Squall. So I'm going to attach both of those to the War Turtle and get that ready to attack with pretty soon. We also have an attachment for turn, so we shall attach to the Pidgeotto in case we want to go in with the Pidgeot later. And here we can just attack with the Golduck for 90 damage once again. There's no pressure to go in with our Blastoise and get the knockout, as you know, our opponent's not really doing a huge amount of damage and they're slowly just building our board, so I'd much rather keep our Blastoise protected so that we can continue to use Powerful Squall. So now we shall promote our Blastoise. We do have that switch to keep in mind, so we could always use that if we need to go and attack with something else. We'll put down the Psyduck so that we can look to attack with that at some point, as well as using our How and Airmail. Routine now, being able to draw all of these cards, as well as Powerful Squall to attach energy. Once again, getting 2 energy, and we'll put that onto our Pidgeotto, as well as our Psyduck, and we have our second Powerful Squall to work with, getting 2 energy once again. So the third goes onto Pidgeotto, and the second on Psyduck, as well as an attachment from hand. And with nothing else to do, we can attack with our Blastoise and get the knockout here. As I said in the intro, doing their 30 damage to ourselves, sometimes a bit of a deal breaker since they're going to be able to finish this off, but in most situations like this one, our opponent really has to struggle to set up, so that 30 damage isn't going to be a huge deal at this point in the game. As I said, these older theme decks are a little bit slower, so my opponent is struggling a little to get their board set up. But we see a Great Ball here, grabbing them a Waybat. And with our hand size is really huge at the moment, and we really don't need to draw anything else. If we also need to lower it, if we're about to deck out, we can use our Copycat to shuffle our cards back into the deck, as well as the Brock's Grit to shuffle Pokemon and energy back in. So we do draw into that Pidgeot if we want to use that at some point to attack with, but I think we're fine here just to keep attaching energy manually from our hand, and we can just start attacking with our Blastoise over and over. We'll draw our third prize card. It is a Farfetch'd, another one. And we have all of the energy in play that we need at the moment, so even if our Pokemon is knocked out and our opponent is able to take a knockout on our Blastoise, we have the second Blastoise. We have plenty of other options to attack with here. So they do get the heads on paralysis as well, but luckily we saved our switch, so we can use that to switch into our other Blastoise. And of course, attached to it, we get our second Airmail, as well as might as well put our Pidgeot down since we have the second Pidgeotto. And we shall attack with Blastoise and get this knockout nice and easily. Going down to 2 prize cards remaining, with our opponent only taking 1 prize card. This is the point, or past the point of no return at this stage in the game. It's going to be a near impossibility for my opponent to get a victory. So this is really showing off the way that this theme deck works, and while it's not the most exciting game against the deck that my opponent has, it at least shows off the deck that I'm using very well, and if you want to try it out, then I would highly recommend it because it has some of the best energy acceleration and draw power in the theme deck format, as I mentioned in the deck profile. So going down to 1 prize card, we've near enough won the game at this point. Our opponent is continuing to play it out though like a champ, and they get the heads on the paralysis again, which is pretty annoying, but we're in no rush because we have plenty of time and plenty of attackers to use at our disposal. And as I said, there's no issue with decking out because we have plenty of ways to shuffle cards back into the deck. So we just have to hope here that our opponent doesn't keep paralysing us, but they do. They get the heads again. They're being very lucky this game. we'll just have to keep passing over to them. We do have one card left in deck, so perhaps they're hoping that we can get a deck out victory, but they flip tails here, and that is going to be the victory for us as we can attack them and take our final prize card. So this match really showed off how the deck works and some of its strengths in terms of the draw power and energy acceleration. Okay, let's get into our second match and last match for this week. Looks like we're against the very popular Charizard deck from Team Up. This is one of the most popular decks and most powerful decks in the theme deck format. You'll come up against it a lot if you play this meta, and that's another one of the reasons why I love this Blastoise deck and water decks in general, because they easily counter fire decks with the weakness advantage that they grant. Although the deck that my opponent is using does still set up fairly consistently, and it can get out of control if we're not able to keep up with them, as well as that pesky Ponyta, which for a coin flip, if they flip heads, then it prevents all damage done to themselves. So that can be really irritating to deal with if they're continuing to flip heads turn after turn. But we get a reasonable start here, and we have the Nest Ball and Timer Ball to at least get our Pokemon into play. We would have preferred to start Farfetch'd again, but that's fine. Our opponent has the Farfetch'd, at least one of us has it. And we can start off with the Nest Ball. Going second, of course, we can play our supporter card, which I do love playing my supporter cards. I think getting this second Squirtle down is going to be huge in developing our board state. But for now we're going to use Cynthia. Hopefully draw into an energy that we do get, so that we can use Collect. We also drew that second Pidgey, so we're guaranteed to get our Airmail set up next turn, which is very good. Along with this Pokemon Fan Club, we can get some more Pokemon into play. That's going to be good for setting up our board, and it's really just a race at this point to see who can get set up first. Our opponent also has the Timer Ball and their Needle Queen. Once they evolve into that, it allows them to search their deck for a Pokemon with their ability. It's very similar in the sense that it's going to be thinning their deck, but also getting the exact Pokemon that they want to use. I think I'm going to evolve our Pidgey on the bench, as well as using Pokemon Fan Club first. And we shall get our Psyduck. It's going to be a very good attacker in this match, as well as getting our Squirtle. We have our Blastoise. One of our Blastoise is prized, but both of War Turtle are there. So we shall get these into play and use Airmail. See what we have to work with. We get a Blastoise, and I shall settle for using Collect. It's going to be our best route here. Try and draw some more cards. We draw into the Pidgeot, which could be useful to attack with, considering we have Switch as well. The only issue, of course, is we don't have any energy just yet. So my opponent has the How once again, so they're going to use that to draw cards. And we see the little pony here. Ponyta doesn't do much, but it is the Rapidash that it evolves into that I was referring to earlier, which is a very irritating attack that it has. But we have our Golduck ready to go, as well as an Airmail. So we can use these and attach our energy, as well as just continuing to draw cards. I feel we don't have a strong attacker to use at the moment, so we're going to be looking to get into either a Blastoise or an energy, so that on the following turn we can start attacking. If we can start attacking and taking knockouts before my opponent does. That's going to set us up for a really good position to win this match. Now, if we take a look at my opponent's Rapidash, it prevents all damage and effects from attacks. So the effects part is very important because it means that if we use Amnesia's effect isn't actually going to work unless we use it first before our opponent is able to get heads with that Rapidash. So just little interactions like that between attacks, it's very important to keep note of when you're getting into the Pokemon trading card game, or even if you're a long time player, you're going to have to keep note of little interactions like that. So it looks like my opponent is desperate to attack here and start getting some heads. They do get their first heads, so as soon as they get tails we're going to start being able to sweep, but until then we're going to have to hold off, and it looks like we're going to have to sacrifice a Squirtle here. Alternatively, we could also go in with Farfetch'd. It would survive a hit since it has 80 hit points. I think that is what we're going to do actually, so let's just airmail first, see what we draw into. Copycat and How looks more appealing at the moment. So we'll start with How. And we don't get anything too good here, so we'll stick to the game plan and switch into our Farfetch'd, and we can at least collect to draw 2 cards. Also, having the 1 retreat cost means that on the following turn, if my opponent gets a tails, we can then retreat and attack with our Golduck for the knockout. This is really just buying my opponent time so that they can set up the rest of their board. You see here they're getting towards their Charizard. They get a second Charmeleon, as well as playing a Professor Kukui, which is a twist, and it's going to knock us out, doing the 80 damage, but they get the tails, so we're going to be able to knock them out with our Golduck doing 90 damage, but becomes 180 with weakness. Now, this is problematic in itself as well, because as soon as they get the Charizard online, which they have the potential to do unless they've prized them, then they're going to be able to get the return knockout here. So we want to set up Blastoise as quickly as possible. And getting a How, it looks like we're not able to do that just yet, but we do get the War Turtle at least, which is something, as well as having the Pidgeot in hand could be useful. There's not too much else that we can do here unfortunately, so we shall go with the attack, swim and knock out this Rapidash for 180 damage. Taking our first prize card of the game, we get the Blastoise, so if my opponent has Charizard here, which they can search out with the Nidoqueen, then they will get the knockout, but we hopefully have the response. The only issue is that we will have to get at least 2 energy from our powerful Squall. Of course, after that point we'll be looking to get our second Blastoise, because the threat of the other Charmeleon means that we're still not safe if we take out this Charizard. They will easily be able to develop a second Charizard, assuming of course that it is in their deck. So as I mentioned, well, we do have an advantage as we're hitting them for weakness. Their deck is very consistent and powerful. It's very much a race to get to a stalemate position, or to see who can take all of their prize cards first. So we shall send up one of our War Turtle here and evolve into Blastoise. Want to be thinning the deck as much as possible before we use Purple Squall, as we do need to hit 2 energy, and don't want to be shuffling Pokemon in or any other cards in, so we'll use Professor Kukui, one of them with energy. Hopefully we can hit this, and we do. We hit 2 energy from our Purple Squall. As I said, we're putting them both onto our Blastoise, going all in super aggressive, and we'll put in this Pidgey as well so that we can hopefully use Brock's Grit at some point and get our air mails going again, so that we can, get a third Blastoise eventually. We'll hold all the rest of the cards in our hand and we will attack for the knockout. Much like our opponent using their ability with Charizard, we also have to take damage, but that's fine because if they have Charizard, they're going to be knocking us out in one hit regardless. So we also got the Psyduck off of the prize cards here. That could be an option to go into the Golduck and use Amnesia on their Charizard, since they only have one attack to use with Charizard. However, they are going in with a Nidoqueen here. So that tells me that they don't have the Charizard available to them. It does look like they do need another energy though. But with that, they'll be doing a considerable amount of damage to our Blastoise. Let's see what they have in store for us. They have the energy, and they're able to get the knockout. They're doing more damage for the evolution Pokemon that they have in play on their bench. So they do get the knockout, and that puts them in a position where if we knock them out with a Blastoise, say, but if we have a look here, they have 160 HP, we're not able to get a knockout with Blastoise. So I think if we go in and put up our Pidgeotto, we do have switch, so we can always switch out. And we're looking to get into a Blastoise here. So we have our double airmail as well as a Professor Kukui. And if we're able to get into Blastoise and we use this Professor Kukui, then we can get the knockout, but we also need the energy. That's the problem. So it looks like we have an energy here, I'll take it. Another airmail gives us more energy. And we'll go with Professor Kukui. We don't hit Blastoise, unfortunately. So we have no real strong attackers to use at this point. And it's really unfortunate that it came down to this, but all we can really do here is attach to our Farfetch'd as well as switch into it and just use Collect to draw some cards. So we're really looking to thin out our deck here, trying to get our Blastoise, and on the following turn we should be able to use Brock's Grit as well, but we don't actually have a attacker set up since we don't have any energy on our benched Pokemon. Although we can go in with Amnesia on Golduck and that'll stop them from attacking, but they're very close to being able to retreat as well, which is problematic. And here we see the second Nidoqueen coming into play, allowing them to search out the Charizard, which they do have in deck. As I mentioned, that really puts them in a stalemate or checkmate position, because even if we knock out their Nidoqueen somehow, they can come in with their Charizard and get the return knockout. And considering they only have 2 prize cards to take, that is going to be a game from my opponent at this point, because we've fallen too far behind and we weren't able to keep up, which is just how it goes sometimes in the theme deck format, unfortunately. But hey, we'll play it out for my opponent and we'll be a good sportsman. That's all part of the game. So we'll go in here, my opponent gives us the well played, we will give it back to them, as well as going in here with the Golduck and big energy on it. We might as well use airmails and get our Blastoise into play. See, Timer Ball, and we can Brock's Grit. Let's put in a Blastoise line and some energy, as well as using our Ball Search cards here. Nest Ball, getting us a Squirtle, and Timer Ball, trying to get an evolution. So we get the War Turtle, can put that down. As well as using Powerful Squall to get those energy. We might as well put them all onto Blastoise since he is the start of the show. And then use Amnesia to do 20 to our opponent. And as I said, they do have the energy on it already, so they can retreat and they just go into their Charizard and get the knockout, or whoever else they want to do the attack here. Also going to play out their turn, getting a Charmeleon into play. And they have the switch, so they can just switch out. They have the Roaring Resolve ability on Charizard, which gets energy onto itself from the deck, and that's going to be game, unfortunately. So we weren't able to win it against a deck which is weak to us, but it's going to be a very close matchup because of the way that their deck sets up. So that's unfortunate, but at least we won the first match, and it's still a very good deck overall, and I would definitely recommend giving it a go at least, even if you just want to get a hold of the cards such as Blastoise or Pidgeotto. It's a very good deck to get for those reasons. So I've been Connor, that's Scottish Nerd. Hopefully I'll see you again in the next video, and be sure to subscribe so that you get notified when I do post on the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.